Hey there, it's Laura here from makingcardsisdone.com, and in today's video I'm sharing a review on the brand new Tonic Nuvo hybrid ink pads. I'm also showing you how to make two sparkly unicorn cards from start to finish in the second part of my video. So in this first part of the video, I'll be reviewing the ink pads. Make sure to check out my blog post for more pictures, information, prices, and links to all of the ink pads. So in total, Tonic released 4 sets of 3 mini diamond ink pads. First set is Tropical Fruits, then over here we have Rose Garden. Then the set over here is called Sea Siren, and then the fourth set is called Sunset Serenade. So here are just some swatches of the full collection of ink pads. These are hybrid inks, which means that they are permanent and fast drying, so these inks give super smooth impressions. Some of the darker shades, they stamp a little bit splotchy at first, but then when they dry, it ends up very smooth and flawless, so don't worry about it. So here I'm just showing you all of the different colors and stamping all of them on camera so you can see that they stamp really smoothly. And as you can see, some of the darker shades are a little bit splotchy, like these really dark purples and reds, but when they dry they will end up really smooth, so don't worry. Since these are hybrid inks, they can actually be used with alcohol markers, since the ink won't bleed or smudge or smear. I decided to use some Copic markers to show you. So I colored with some shades of orange, and I colored outside the lines on purpose so you could see that these inks don't bleed or smudge when you're using alcohol markers. So I really like that about these inks. So on top of that, these inks can be used with water since they're waterproof. I did some really quick and kind of messy coloring with Zig Clean Color Wheel Brush Marker. I am not using any watercolor paper, so that's why this coloring is a little bit funny looking, but as you can see, the ink doesn't smear or smudge when using with water. So these inks could be perfectly used for a technique like no line watercoloring or something like that. That's just some really basic information on these inks. So overall, I really love how functional these inks are and all of the pretty shades they come in. I highly recommend these. And in the second part of this video, I'm showing you another fun technique with these inks. I'll be showing you how to make a sparkly ink blended background, so let's get started. First, I'm adhering this piece of white cardstock to my craft sheet with some washi tape, and this will make sure that my paper doesn't move around when I'm using a stencil. I'm using the abstract triangle stencil from Simon's Stamp, along with the Polar Ice ink from Tonic, using a mini ink blending tool to blend this ink. And I really like how blendable these inks are. They blend like butter. I didn't have any trouble. Next, I decided to add a coat of glitter and sparkle with Tonic's Moonstone Glimmer paste. So I applied that paste evenly with a little scraper tool, and then I just scrape off all of the excess product and put it back into the jar. And once that's dry, you will have a really cool, super sparkly, in-dimensional background. I couldn't stop with this one background. I had to make a second one. So here I'm using the, well, I'm actually not really sure how the stencil is called. Oh, it's called the Madison stencil. So this is the Madison stencil from Winnie and Walter. And this time I decided to create a little bit of a gradient or an ombre background using two different inks. I am using Pink Sherbet and Panama Rose, which are two of my favorite ink pads from the collection. And then I am also just spreading some Moonstone Glimmer paste from Tonic, and I am putting that on evenly with my little scraper tool. So then I let those pieces to dry, and then I can work on the other part of these cards. So I am stamping two unicorns from the Magical Unicorn stamp set from My Favorite Things with some Memento Tuxedo black ink onto some Simon Says Stamp ultra heavyweight white cardstock. This is my favorite combo for Copic coloring. I'm using E53 and E51 to color this unicorn. So I'll be doing some really quick Copic coloring since that's my way to go. I don't want to spend too much time on this coloring. So I'm just using these two colors, and then I did the exact same thing for the second unicorn. Next, I'm coloring the unicorn's fur with an NO Copic marker, just going around the edges of this unicorn because I just wanted to add a little bit of shading and dimension without having to color the entire unicorn. Then I'm using Y04 and Y000 to color some yellow hair for this unicorn. So I'm using two totally different color schemes. I'm using more shades of pink and yellow and orange for the kind of mermaidish background. And then for the triangle card, I'm using shades of purple and blue and green. So then for the orange, I'm using YR18 and YR16. Then next, I'm using some darker shades of yellow. I'm using Y19 and Y13. So this unicorn is finished, and it's time to color the second one. So as like I said before, I'm using a totally different color scheme for this one. I'm using shades of purple, like BV08, BV04, and BV02. Then I'm also using some shades of green, but I didn't record that because I forgot to turn on my camera, which happens a lot these days. So I used YG67 and YG23 for the green part. Then for the aqua part, I used BG32 and BG11, I think. Or no, I think I used BG13 and BG11. And then for the darker shade of aqua, I used BG07 and BG02. So after Copic coloring, I die cut these unicorns using the coordinating dies, and I also die cut a circle shape out of that ink blended sparkly background. Next, I'm heat embossing a sentiment on some colored cardstock with Wow's opaque bright white embossing powder. So after sprinkling on the embossing powder, I'm heat embossing it, or heat setting it, with my heat tool. Then I just let that cool down a little bit, and then I'm using, I can't speak anymore. I'm using my Tonic Guillotine trimmer to create a sentiment banner. This is my favorite trimmer out there. And then finally, it's time to piece everything together and to finish off these cards. I'm adhering the circle pieces onto my card with some foam adhesive. Then I am adhering a strip of glitter cardstock to my sentiment banner with Tonic Nuvo's Deluxe adhesive. This is my favorite liquid adhesive since it dries clear, and it also has a really fine nozzle, so you can easily adhere really tiny and detailed things. Then I'm adhering my sentiment banners onto these circles with my scotch ADG. So there you go. Next, I'm adhering the unicorns with some foam adhesive. And then I decided it would be a good idea to finish off this card with some sparkle. I'm using Tonic Nuvo little golds, hexagons, and mirror ball stars. So these little sequins are usually used in sequin shakers. So these are really teeny tiny. They are super thin, which made it really tricky to adhere these individually on my cards, but I decided I would do it anyway since I thought these matched the design and the feeling to these cards. Then I just had to add a little bit more glitter here and there. So first I'm using a Tonic Nuvo glitter pen, and then I'm applying a coat of the crystal glaze, which is also by Tonic Studios. So that finishes up these two cards. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to check out my blog post for more information on these cards and on the ink pads. I will see you very soon. Bye bye.